sports talk radio, it's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.
We're back with another great episode of Tony's Takes live right here on YouTube. Of course, I'm not alone in the studio. Sitting next to me is my co-host, Jimmy D. Jim Jam, how are you?
I'm doing good, Tony. I got my St. Joe's Hawks hoodie on.
Got your Hawks hoodie on. We're only a couple weeks away from A10 basketball. And speaking of A10 basketball, I want to cut right to the chase. We tweeted it out. We said that we have a special guest live on today's episode. So without further ado, let's introduce him. We have Tyler Cronin from the 3 Bid League podcast. Tyler, can you hear us?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Tony, and thank you, Jim.
It's a pleasure to have you. We've been looking forward to it. We've been building up to St. Joe's basketball, A10 basketball. Why limit ourselves to St. Joe's basketball when we got one of the smartest guys in A10 Talk not A10 Talk, that's a Freudian slip, in A10 Twitter. So I want to cut right to the chase with all the questions. And Tyler, just to give you a little bit of background, we're going to be asking you about Dayton. We're going to be asking you a little bit about St. Joe's. And we're going to be asking you about just the A10 in general from a league perspective. And that's where I want to start tonight. Fordham announced, I don't know if you saw this, Fordham announced that a couple members of the organization have COVID-19 or tested positive for COVID-19. As someone who watches the A10, follows the A10, are you worried about the conference going into, as it starts and begins, are you worried that we might see a shutdown of the season before it even starts?
I don't think you can really be worried about it. Like, we're basically dealing with the same situation that we saw in the NFL and the MLB and college football, which is players are going to get COVID, and depending on how the NCAA or the conference sets their rules, they're going to have to miss some games. Games will have to be rescheduled, and it's just a natural way of life in this current environment. I don't see any reason as to why college basketball is going to be any worse off than any of those leagues are. It's going to just basically end up being the same.
Yeah, I think so. What I've seen from St. Joe's, at least, because that's what I can best speak about, is they have a lot of good procedures, and I have friends who are in the athletic department still and still perform sports at the school, and they say that they're getting tested all the time, that the procedures and controls are in place. So from what I have heard, there seems to be schools taking it very seriously, and if it does slip up, I'm hoping that they can mitigate, isolate, and push forward, because I think this is a great opportunity for college basketball in general. And the NBA is gone for another month and a half. We don't even know when the NBA is coming back. And football isn't playing any other day than Sunday and Thursday night. They haven't expanded into Tuesday, and no one's told me they have anyway. So this is a perfect time for college basketball to at least get a little bit more of the attraction that they normally don't receive this early in the season. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, you're basically looking at, right now, I think the current NBA plan is 3 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
So you're basically looking at 27 free days for college basketball to just dominate. And obviously, people won't care on Sundays, and maybe they won't care as much on Thanksgiving, but that's a lot of days, and especially for mid-major schools to potentially get some eyeballs, because, we're not going to have the Champions Classic in its normal form. We're not going to have a lot of the big preseason tournaments. We're going to see teams like George Washington. They landed a national TV game on the first day of the season.
That's awesome. I didn't even know about that. See, breaking news.
Noon against Navy. I think they're on CBSSN, maybe.
Okay, and that's a nice.
Might be wrong on that.
That's a nice DC matchup right there. The Maryland, Virginia, DC area. I'm gonna get cut right to the chase. This is a team I worry about. I want to talk about LaSalle because Ashley Howard, especially for those in Philadelphia like Jim and I, my co-host Jim, we see Ashley Howard go, wow, this is a guy who might bring LaSalle back to the glory of what it used to be. Big Five basketball is so important to us as sports and as fans of the sport. And yes, LaSalle's in the A10, but it's more important that they're in the Big Five, and I want to see them, help us beat Villanova or help us beat Temple. But we've yet to see success with this program, and they keep floating around this, barely under 500 mark. And I've always believed that LaSalle's issue, its main issue, is they can't recruit because the campus and the school itself just it's not a pretty school. I mean, I don't mean to offend anyone who's a LaSalle fan. My parents went to LaSalle, so I feel like I can say this without too much guilt. But it's hard to recruit kids when you don't give them that college atmosphere. They're not going to spend 3 years there if they don't like how the school looks and feels. And do people even sit in the stands when the game goes on? And the only other way to break that cycle is if you don't have a nice campus, well, at least you have a winning team. But the problem is LaSalle hasn't had a winning team in, 8 years, 9 years? So as great as Ashley Howard is, how does he solve these issues? How does LaSalle get out of what seems to be, sub 500 purgatory?
Well, the first thing that they're missing is an offensive star. And my feelings on LaSalle this year, a lot of guys I like. There's a lot of very nice pieces. But when I really try to think of how they would fit on a good team, it's a lot of guys who would be your 4th, 5th, 6th, even 7th or 8th best player. And they're missing a top-line guy to really bring eyeballs to the program and simply to just deliver them wins. And so for me, I think if we're talking about this season alone, it starts with Clifton Moore, the Indiana transfer. He didn't play a ton there his first 2 years, but he's a former 4-star recruit. He's an incredibly talented 6'10" big man. And if they're going to start to turn things around right now, they're going to need him to emerge, not just as a good player, but as a leader of that team.
See, I always thought that Christian Ray would be the offensive guy. Usually is the one that appears to be who the offense goes through him. But you're saying this transfer might be the solution for LaSalle. Hopefully it's the solution. I mean, last year I watched LaSalle play in person, and they had some, as you said, some nice pieces, but it never clicks. It's never. I wrote a piece. I looked like an idiot. Let's just say it. I looked like an idiot last year when LaSalle had a really nice non-conference schedule. They played pretty decently. They were above 500. I said, this team's legit. They're going to play great defense. And then they got in the A10, and clearly they just had a bad, their non-conference schedule wasn't where it needed to be to translate into great A10 play, and it just broke my heart. I really want to see them do well. I really like Ashley Howard.
Yeah, and you're kind of just doubling down on my point too. It's certainly possible Christian Ray could be their best player this year. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 guys that are candidates for that. But when you really sit down and try to picture the season, if Christian Ray's their best guy, what is his ceiling, and then what is their ceiling as a team? He's the kind of guy that I'd much rather have as like my number 3 option. Just a guy who can kind of play off the ball a little bit, play on the ball a little bit. Hopefully he shoots better from 3 than the 26% he put up last year. But he's an interesting player. He's just not the kind of guy that I would trust as my best guy if you're trying to be an upper echelon team.
And for those just joining us on Tony's Takes, people are piling into YouTube. You're listening to Tyler from the 3 Bid League podcast. You can go check him out. We're talking A10 basketball. I know people are still climbing into Tony's Takes, jumping into the live stream. We really appreciate everyone joining us. And we're talking A10 basketball to start off Tony's Takes. We're just talking a little bit of LaSalle. And I want to move on to St. Joe's now. This is my bread and butter. This is what I love. These are the Hawks. This is the team that dominated the A10. Well, not dominated, but has in the Martelli era, the A10 was always a possibility for us to win. And now we're just in these dark, just terrible depths of despair. But I think things are looking great for the Hawks. These transfers, I don't know, Tyler, if you know who Hawk Hill Hardwood is. He covers St. Joseph's basketball. He breaks all the news. He's great. He kind of came after me. I posted a thing on A10talk.com last weekend saying Demir Bishop and Greg Foster Jr., these transfers, these are the future of St. Joe's. Finally, we have someone who can handle the ball and give Ryan Daly a little bit more room to operate. And Hawk Hill Hardwood came out there and said, what about the freshmen? What about Jordan Hall? The guy looks like a baby Ben Simmons. He's 6'8" and passes the ball like no tomorrow. So, Tyler, my question for you is Am I too focused on transfers? Do you think freshmen can really make an impact on a team like St. Joe's who's still trying to learn the system a little bit?
Well, right now, I think anybody could make a great impact on this team. And it's funny that we bring them in after LaSalle because I kind of feel the opposite about these teams. St. Joe's, there's 3, maybe 4 guys I trust, but they have the dude. They have Ryan Daly. And we've seen him carry this team, and now that certainly didn't translate to wins last year, but he didn't have that much around him. And so you're not relying on one of these guys to be the face of St. Joe's basketball right now because you got one more year of Ryan Daly doing that. What you need Ryan Daly's top sidekicks. And so that kind of situation does enable a talented freshman to come in, maybe kind of just dip his feet in the water. And then as we start to get into February and we get into those big games, then that's when we could see a guy like that really kind of break out and maybe start to take the ball away from Daly a little bit. But he takes the pressure off of so many guys in the offense. And the expectations for all 3 of these guys, for Bishop, for Foster, for Jordan Hall, they're going to be less. The pressure is going to be less because they know if they don't play well, they can just rely on Ryan Daly.
Jim, I think you have a question.
Yeah, Tyler, if you don't mind. In your most recent podcast, you mentioned St. Joe's will be playing in the Fort Myers tip-off. While it was a surprise to me as well, I didn't see this as a win for St. Joe's, really. I don't see them standing a chance in really either of those games. What I'm hoping for is for the Hawks to represent the A10 and kind of grow the name of the conference some more. How do you imagine this tournament going, and what meaning are you putting into this for the Hawks or the A10? And what should we take from this at the end of the day?
I mean, you're going to be playing 2 top 20 teams that weekend. And it doesn't matter how optimistic you are about St. Joe's. Plain and simple, this is a team that was not good last year. I mean, they finished in the basement of the conference. So I'm certainly not expecting them to have any chance to roll into Fort Myers and beat Kansas. But I'm a guy who really believes that no matter where your team is at, you should be using your non-conference games to play tough opponents and to really throw your team into the fire. So for me, I just want to see them just stick around on the court those 2 days. I want to see one of those games at halftime. Maybe they're down by 7. And they've been competitive. And especially these new guys on the roster, they're getting reps against big-time competition. That's what I want to see. I want to see them be willing to go out and fight and be able to hold on and hold their own for a little bit. I don't expect them to win by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, that's interesting because we've seen that a couple times last year. You know, there was games that, UConn, for instance, and Bradley, we saw them, kind of play out of their wits. And I'd be interested to see if they kind of bring that kind of energy to this tournament as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I'd always rather see my team play hard and get killed by Kansas than to play, Chicago State, beat them by 30 and just absolutely coast through the second half.
Right.
That's what makes teams better come conference play, is having to play tough games in December.
Okay, so this brings me to my big point of the night. This is when I saw that Kansas game get scheduled, this is what I saw. I saw for months, we heard all over Twitter, mid-majors, especially the A10, were never going to receive Power 5 conference matchups in the foreseeable future. The Power 5 was moving away from playing mid-majors because they were, first of all, scared of us because we always upset them come tournament time. And for the fact that I had Joe Lenardi on my show 2 years ago, and he foretold the future with this. He said that they want to make sure they preserve as many spots as possible for their conference, and when they play non-conference games against non-power conferences, they're just giving spots away for every time Pitt gets beat by, Duquesne. And so when that came through for St. Joe's, I thought, this is it. You can say Kansas scheduled us because it's a lollipop game, but for our athletic director to somehow finagle that with no winning record, with no resemblance of any, prestige of this program since, the last 15 years, we've totally fallen from what we used to be or once were. This was a good sign for not only St. Joe's, but for the entire conference. Athletic directors can find those games if they really push it.
Yeah, and you say that there's no prestige. I think prestige definitely played into this a little bit. And sure, St. Joe's has not been that great in the last 4 years, but people still remember the Jameer Nelson team. They're going to remember them forever. And this is something that's going to benefit Dayton 15 years down the line, too. You see it with Butler. You see it with Wichita State. People don't forget moments like that. And I think that's honestly probably the biggest reason why St. Joe's got in.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't deny that. But you bring up this point, which is Dayton, which I really love because people used to say St. Joe's is the Gonzaga of the East, or was going to be. And then Phil Martelli, unfortunately, said, I don't want any one-and-dones. It was right in 2003, 2004. Calipari was just beginning to get the one-and-done era to start, and players were really eyeing that option of, let me go to St. Joe's for 1 year, and Martelli said no to a lot of great recruits because of that, because he came from an older style of play, and he thought he could build a program like Jay Wright has based off of veteran leadership and winning championships that way rather than through the one-and-done style. But I see Dayton now, they're in the same position St. Joe's was 15 years ago, but instead of wasting that opportunity, I see Dayton capitalizing. All of a sudden, we're hearing all this news of great recruits coming to Dayton, and they're really building something great out there. What is the potential for Dayton for the next 5 years? What do you think?
So I feel like I should note this right now. For those who don't know, I am an alum of the University of Dayton. So I've spent 4+ years just going to every event that has happened at UD Arena. But I mentioned it on one of our episodes, I think about 2 weeks ago. People say the Gonzaga of the East, like you mentioned. I see it as, why can't Dayton just be Butler 2.0? Just a consistent top 30 program over and over and over again. And you look at some of the little things that go into that. Arena consistently ranked one of the top 25 best in the game. They're always top 20 in attendance. They're top 30 in the country in revenue in college basketball. The facilities are world-class. They're less than 10 years old. And so the pieces were always there. They're selling out a 13,000-seat arena every night. That's the kind of thing that's been a recruiting weapon for them for decades now. But now they have that big seminal moment. They have what Butler had with the Final Four run. And so that's now their selling point to these recruits. And they can now go from getting high-level 3 stars and mid-tier 4 stars to 5 stars are starting to look at Dayton in a different light. And these next, I'd say 3 years are critical to this. They got to maintain the brand. Anthony Grant has to prove that this was not a fluke, that Obi Toppin was not just a once-in-a-generation snowflake player for them. If they can make the NCAA tournament, not necessarily this year, but 2 of the next 3 seasons, maybe just win a game or 2, then they're absolutely set to take advantage.
I like that take. I like saying Butler. It's a little bit of a different. Everyone, the Gonzaga's take is almost cliche. I'd rather be Butler, honestly, with that take. I like it. Tyler, before we let you go, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Give us your take. Who do you think wins the Atlantic 10 this year?
All right. So the way I've set the schedule, I've allowed myself 3 more weeks here to make my final prediction. But right now, I'm going to lean the way that I did all the way back in April. And I did briefly touch on this months and months and months ago. I really like St. Bonaventure. It's a sneaky pick, but the Bonnies just have so many pieces that fit perfectly together. They have really the best crew of role guys in the conference if their transfers play well. Dom Welsh is fantastic. Jaron English closed out the season in a great way as their secondary ball handler. To me, if Kyle Lofton can take the next natural step and become one of the 3 or 4 best players in the A10, then he has the roster around him for the Bonnies to really shock a lot of people. I'm going to go with them as my pick. I would say if I had to pick a second choice, I would go with Richmond.
Richmond seems like the safe choice, but I'm going to book you for St. Bonaventure. I think that's a nice one. I really like that.
Yeah, trying to go a little bold this time, but I love that Bonnie's team.
I'd love to hear it. Tyler, thank you for coming on the Tony's Takes. We really do appreciate it. How about you tell the audience, give yourself a plug. Where can they hear you? And let them know.
Yeah, so 3-Bid League Podcast. You can find us basically anywhere you get your podcasts, except we don't do YouTube. Apple, Spotify, any of those. We are right now through part 3 of our preseason preview, so we've already covered 9 of the teams in the A10. We'll be doing the final 5 over the next 2 weeks. I know for your Philly people, we did LaSalle 3 weeks ago. That's already out there. You can listen right now. We will be doing St. Joe's this weekend, so that'll be dropping on Monday.
Excellent. I'll 100% be listening to that.
And you have the Jimmy D personal endorsement of the breakdown of the previews. I really like that. How you guys are doing it in segments.
Jimmy D likes the segment breakdown for the preseason. I like it too. I like it.
Thank you. I appreciate the endorsement from you guys.
Tyler Cronin, 3-Bid League Podcast. You can get him where he just plugged it. Really pleasure for having him on. Tyler, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And hey, if people are looking, can find us on Twitter at the number 3-Bid League Pod.
There you go. People have it. Tyler Cronin from the 3-Bid League Podcast. We're going to keep rolling here on Tony's Takes, of course. I know we just had to hang up on him. It was excellent, but Tyler had a lot of great things. Hold on, let's get the cheering noise for him. Thank you, Tyler. It was really great to hear from you. Jim, there's a couple points from that I really want to talk about. The first one was the Butler point. I really like that.
Yeah,
it's creative. It's something different. I fell for the trap. We're talking too much about Gonzaga.
Well, let's go like 10 years ago when Gonzaga wasn't really, it was like you were kind of like an underdog to pick Gonzaga to go far, and then all of a sudden, within the last decade or so, now we're just like, oh, Gonzaga, they're gonna make a run, Gonzaga. Right. It's like it's in everybody's mouth. It's like a pandemic of Gonzaga.
I also like we talked about St. Joe's, and there was a lot of great points about St. Joe's, but we talk about St. Joe's every week on this podcast, or almost every week, and I think nothing surprised me with what Tyler was able to tell us with St. Joe's. What surprised me was LaSalle. He thinks that there are some good pieces to come. There's still question marks. There's no one's perfect in this world. However, there were more pieces than what I thought were there, and I hope that they do figure it out, because a LaSalle that's good helps out St. Joe's, helps out the Big Five, and that's what I really care about.
And one of the narratives that I want to set is this Billy Lang, Ashley Howard
Lang gang
sort of rivalry, because they both came from Jay Wright over at Villanova.
Yes.
So I really would love to see them kind of compete and kind of battle it out for second place in the Big Five. That would be something really cool to look forward to, because Jay Wright would just be untouchable, and then he has his former
proteges.
Yeah, former proteges now tearing up the Big Five as well.
Let's go to the chat. I know that we were so preoccupied with the interview because it was a great one. Let's go to the chat. We always go to the chat here at Tony's Takes, and we like everyone and appreciate everyone for listening to today's episode. We've got Evan Guerin in the chat. He goes, turned off Trump's press conference for this. Thank you, Evan. We love that you did that just for us. We're so important. We're more important than anything else in the world. He also goes, people love to talk about VCU for the same reasons. And Jim, I see you in the chat.
Oh, Jim's in the chat.
Jammers 0902. It's Jimmy D from Tony's Takes, live interacting in the chat. Yeah, so it was a good one. I don't want to harper on college basketball too much. We got our college basketball in. We filled our 25 minutes of Tony's Takes with college basketball. Jim, I think it's time for the Eagles.
Should we do breaking news?
No, not yet. No breaking. Do you have breaking news?
Well, just the thing.
What's the thing?
COVID.
The COVID?
Yeah, the COVID. The Eagles player on COVID. Dropped today.
Okay, we'll do the breaking news.
All right.
Give me 1 second. Let's set this up. Jim, you chit-chat and I'll get the breaking news together.
Okay, well, so another thing that we talked about is, the Eagles.
Okay, breaking news. This is from Jim. Go, Jim.
Okay, we have breaking news. Breaking news. Eagles players test positive for COVID, but it's really just one player, Marcus Epps, who will probably miss the next game, but that's really not a huge deal. We had Matt Pryor miss a game earlier this year. The one thing with Marcus Epps being out is that's going to be kind of hard for our defense. So we'll see what happens in the future, but he's just going to be in self-isolation for now and following the intensive protocols of the NFL, NFLPA. So that's all
with
we
traffic at the bottom and the top of the hour, you've been listening to Tony's Takes. Okay, that's enough of that. Oh, turn that off. Turn those lights off.
So I think we should go into the recap of last week.
Jim Jam, give us the recap then.
Okay, so
it's on you today.
I'm gonna have a different take than you probably on this.
Probably.
But I think that the Eagles' win against the Cowboys was a step in the right direction.
Okay.
And I think that no matter what happened on that field, Eagles-Cowboys has always been a disgusting game. It's never been a glorious, everybody slinging the ball and it's going 70-yard passes. It's never been like that. It's always been one in the trenches and quarterbacks making mistakes and all sorts of stuff like that. You don't have to sound the alarm for Carson Wentz's performance on the field or even the previous performances of this year. Everything is fine. We are 3-4-1 going into the bye, folks. It's a good sign. Tony?
Oh, I'm sorry. The people in the audience, the audience studio disagrees. I disagree too. Carson Wentz is a bum. We're back to the narrative of Carson Wentz being a bum, and that's a fact here on Tony's Takes. Here's the issue. He is throwing the most interceptions out of any quarterback in the NFL right now, and it is an absolute disgrace that a guy like Doug Peterson can call himself a quarterback coach. It is absolutely disgusting that he can call himself a quarterback coach, that he says that he thinks that he can do whatever he wants because he won a Super Bowl ring. I am tired of the turnovers. Stop throwing off your back foot. Carson Wentz, when he's in the pocket, never moves his feet. He stands there flat-footed. If you ever watch the video of the great ones, Steve Young, Aikman, Manning, Brady, you know what they do? They rock in the pocket. They move their feet. They do what they need to do, and they keep movement. Big Ben keeps movement. Carson Wentz is a big boy. He should be keeping his movement, shifting his weight, back and forth, back and forth. I don't want to see, I'm standing flat-footed, look, I'm getting my photo taken at the DMV, and then I'm throwing the ball down the field like it doesn't matter. Because it matters. How many interceptions are you going to throw, Carson? Hello?
Okay, the one interception in the corner, the back right corner of the end zone, that was his fault, no doubt about it. But if you're going to tell me that throw to Hightower in the center of the field with the wind flowing at 35 miles an hour at that time, and for some reason the ball sails to the left when the wind was going in that direction, I'm not going to blame Wentz on that. That's going to be Doug Peterson in my mind, especially, and the other interception, that's Doug's fault. Why are you calling throws when you know the forecast? What it seems like every single time I watch this Eagles team, Doug Peterson has a plan. But no matter what happens, he just sticks to the plan. There's no audibles in his eyes. He just says, okay, I don't care if it's going to be windy. I know that, in the past when it's windy, people just run the ball. I'm just going to sling the ball. I'm going to make Carson throw all night long and see what happens. And you can't do that. And then all of a sudden, people are blaming him for the one Leighton Vander Esch fumble. No, that was a missed block. Somebody didn't pick him up. And Carson got blasted out of nowhere because Leighton Vander Esch turned a corner and then just showed up right in front of his eyes as he still had the ball in his hands. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to say that there was one turnover in that game that he's truly responsible for. And then there's previous games where people aren't running their routes, people are having the ball hit off their hands, and the ball is getting intercepted. Carson Wentz's statistics, if they weren't skewed by these errors of his other teammates and from his coach, he wouldn't look this bad. And I don't like that.
Steven Daniels in the chat goes, why after an Eagles win against Dallas for first place does it feel like a loss? And John Daniels, no relation, goes, should have thrown last season for Joe Burrow. Shaking my head. That's a take. Jim, I want to talk about this, though, with the Eagles. Because this is a bigger problem. There's no game this week. And so we're not going to have our spread.
I know.
Or our picks.
One of my ideas that I was throwing around was that we pick a lock of the week, a game that we're like 100% sure this team's going to win, and then we just see what happens. We don't have to make it. We don't have to keep a record or anything. We just say
No, it's going toward the record. If
All
we're doing
right.
that, I'm putting it on the record.
All right, fine. I'm good with that too. You want to do that, but this way it's just a straight up. We get it or we don't.
Okay, can you pull the NFL weeks and we'll just
Yeah.
do the spreads?
I'm
Pull all the
doing it
games
right
for
now.
this week, put it in the draft. Get the intern to get us coffee, and then put that in the schedule.
Okay, yeah,
Got
definitely.
it. Cool. Excellent. Intern's working like a dog. Unlike Jim. Okay, we continue though. The Eagles, this is my issue with the Eagles, right? They made no trades. Where are the trades? Where is the great Howie Roseman? Is he alive? Does he show up to work? I know some people, we got off because of COVID, but you still got to go to work some days. Hello, Howie. Where are the trades?
I don't know what happened. As soon as we lost Joe Douglas, we had no drafting ability, and then all of a sudden now Howie, whose his main thing is supposed to be making trades in the middle of the season, that's supposed to be his strength. He's disappeared. Where is he? Have you seen Howie Roseman? Has anybody?
Missing Howie Roseman. Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia wrote a really interesting piece. I'm going to read it out loud for everyone. He goes, Howie Roseman did something kind of surprising on Tuesday. Nothing. The NFL's 4 p.m. trade deadline came and went on Tuesday afternoon without an Eagles general manager making a move. This is an obvious departure from recent seasons. Roseman had pulled off trades in each of the 3 years just before the deadline. In 2017, they acquired Jay Ajayi, which I think helped them win the Super Bowl. In 2018, they acquired Golden Tate, which was another great pick. I wish he could have stayed longer. We clearly need someone like him. And in 2019, they acquired Jannard Avery with a 20 and a 4th round pick. But just because Roseman didn't pull off a trade this year, it doesn't mean he didn't try. He's always an aggressive GM, and this is where we like to protect our guy, Howie Roseman, in our article. The Eagles have reportedly been trying to trade Alshon Jeffrey for over a year now, but no one wants an old guy like him who can't stay healthy and stay on the court. Don't worry, I'm ad-libbing. You can tell I'm ad-libbing. This isn't the actual article, but we continue. Of course the Eagles would have loved to dump Jeffrey and his bloated salary, but there were no takers for the 30-year-old injured receiver coming off a Lisfranc surgery. Is that correct, Jim? Do you know what a Lisfranc surgery is?
I believe that's in the foot. That's the Ben Simmons foot injury.
Then we also heard that Will Parks was on the trade block as well. Couldn't tell you who Will Parks was. Sports Illustrated first reported that, and a league source confirmed that NBC Sports Philadelphia. What? Okay. I hate when they write terribly. Parks signed a blah, 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 blah. 2 other players whom the Eagles have been willing to trade were Zach Ertz and Deshaun Jackson. No one's going to want Deshaun Jackson, and no one's going to want Zach Ertz because both of them are injured, and no one listened to me 3 weeks ago when I said trade these guys before they get injured. And then, of course, they got injured because there's something in the water in Philadelphia. Who are both hurt and on the IR and therefore not tradable. Big shocker, Jim. This team's messed up too many times.
We got Steve Daniels in the chat saying Howie is hanging with Waldo.
Steve from Summerdale is right. This is an absolute joke. And the biggest joke of all, and I don't mean to go all ranty and ravey on Tony's takes, but that's kind of our gist here on the show, is what Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz said 2 days ago. Not only did Howie Roseman screw up, not only did Howie Roseman not get the guys we need, not only did Howie Roseman ensure that we're sending Carson Wentz to the playoffs only to get injured again when, I don't know who's going to hit him this time, Jim. Or someone from not the Steelers, someone from the Seahawks? Who's going to hit him this time? And those 2 clowns, Peterson and Wentz, go out there with the audacity and say, I'm not worried about the turnovers. Here's Carson Wentz saying, I'm not worried about the turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, first part of that, absolutely. Going into the bye week with a win is huge. Huge for us. Huge for us going forward with this division as well. Like you said, though, too many turnovers. I got to be better. There's mistakes out there. Some of it maybe not on the same page. Some of it I got to, the first fumble, I got to throw the ball away. That stuff I can keep cleaning up. And, obviously it's stuff that individually I can get better at. And some of these shots down the field, I'm going to keep giving these guys chances. And I can be better and put the ball in the right spot. But I'm not going to change my aggressive mentality, but we're going to start connecting on some of those big plays. And Obviously, it hurt us a little bit today, but the defense played great, and we got to win.
Yeah, let him hear it. Let him hear it. What a joke!
The issue I have with that is he's a fifth-year veteran. You shouldn't be having to clean up throwing the ball away. He does try to extend plays way too long, and that's the stuff that I do criticize him for. But the play calls, he definitely doesn't have any control over that. And the fact that they were throwing the ball 40 yards down the field on a windy night that goes on the coach. And I'm more likely to criticize the coaches anyway. That's where I always go to anyway. I think when I take my evaluation of Carson, I say if he was on another team with a good coach, I would be scared to death to play him every week. I know he's not making the right decisions right now, but maybe that's because he doesn't have the right coaches around him. And he hasn't had the right coaches around him for 3 years. So that's where I kind of reverted to watching this game. I don't care about how ugly it was. It's Eagles Cowboys. It's always ugly. It doesn't matter. Eagles Giants, Eagles Washington. It doesn't matter who's good or how good they are. It's always close games. You can always split the season, go 1-1 against whoever your division opponent is. And that's just how the NFL season and schedule is put together. That's just when you play a division game, people play harder. They play like it's the playoffs because that's their ticket to get into the playoffs when it comes down to it.
And they're used to seeing guys, right? They know.
Yeah,
Doug Peterson's been there for so many years, and you know what he's going to call because the man's never changed his play style.
No. I mean, the only time that he had a different playbook was when Frank Reich was there.
Wake up, Philadelphia. He's stale.
Do you have a pick lock of the week?
Yeah. I think I got a lock of the week. And I think everyone should pay attention. Breaking news. This is my lock of the week. Here we go. I've been looking through most of these games, and they look beautiful. And when I look at New York and Washington, I think it can't get much worse, but it can. And so, wait, Jim, you never gave me the spread.
Oh, no, I was saying straight up lock of the week.
Okay.
This team is going to beat this team.
Got it. I know everyone's saying the New York Giants are gaining steam, but I'm going to take the Washington football team. I think they are going to give the Eagles a harder shot at winning the division, and so I'm going with Washington. Out of all the other sports and games that we could have picked, Denver and Atlanta, Seattle and Buffalo, Chicago and Tennessee, the Ravens and the Colts, the Panthers and the Chiefs. I mean, a lot of these games are tough to pick. They are not easy. There is no easy matchup this week other than maybe Steelers and Cowboys, but that would be too easy. That would be me looking at the fans and going, I'm going to pick the easy game because Tony never wants to be wrong. I'm taking a bold pick. I'm taking the two worst teams in the league, and I'm taking the one that looks a little bit better. Give me Washington.
Ooh, that is a much more bolder pick than I'm going to take. At first, I looked at the Pittsburgh-Dallas one. I was like, all right, that is way too easy. So my pick of the week, my lock, is actually going to be the Cardinals over the Dolphins. And I know
that's another sneaky pick.
I know, like people are going to start riding the Tua train and all that, but Kyler Murray and the Cardinals have been pretty good. They took the Seattle Seahawks into overtime last week. I believe it was last Thursday, and they won after a few missed kicks in overtime. And I really like that Cardinals team, so that's my lock against the Dolphins.
I like that pick. There was a lot of picks to pick from, but I think we didn't chicken out. We picked hard games.
I know. I really wanted to just say Steelers over
it's
Dallas.
So easy. You're looking at it, you're like, yeah, that's the win right there.
Dallas
stinks. They stink. Let's go. We're going to go back to the Eagles. I'm not going to bring up my Doug Peterson pick just yet. Also, Jim, you didn't tell the people what happened last week. Our record. I think we both went 1-1.
We both went
because we picked the same games.
Yeah, we picked the same thing.
That's right. I want to tell the people that because I don't want them to think that we forgot about them.
We both picked the over and we missed on that, and then we took the Eagles minus 7.5 or whatever.
I really thought we were going to hit the over.
That line ended up changing to Eagles minus 10 before the game.
We got lucky then.
And the Eagles still hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, I wouldn't have touched
minus 10 would have been too much for me.
And I would have lost then. Because I would have taken the Cowboys to cover that.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing that we did that afterwards. Okay, so we said the Eagles didn't make any trades. And we said, this is going to hurt them in the long run. But don't worry, Josh McCown left for the Texans. Is this going to bite them in the butt, or is Jalen Hurts really okay to be our backup? He has no NFL experience.
Jalen Hurts is not ready for the NFL.
And so then why would they get rid of Josh McCown?
I
Or let
don't-
him even
I don't know.
walk?
Yeah, I think they just had to let him walk. I like that we have a net loss going into the out of the trade deadline. That's fun.
Or -1
Minus
player.
one, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think Josh McCown, as long as he's healthy, who would hate to have him after the postseason that he had last year, where he almost let us past the Seahawks.
All I got to say is have fun in Texas.
Oh,
I mean, that's just a bad team. That's a bad team with a bad record.
they'll probably end up using him this year.
And they're going to fire the coach. Or they already fired their coach. And they might end up using him because Deshaun Watson's an injury waiting to happen half the time, unfortunately. And I like Deshaun Watson. I think he's a good player, and I think he's just stuck on a bad team. I don't know if you saw this, Jim. J.J. Watt had comments, too.
Oh, no, I didn't see
He was
anything
like,
but
get me
JJ
out of here.
Ooh,
Which I don't blame him. I mean, that's bad. The guy has stood with your organization for so long, and now he's telling you, let me go. Not a good look.
could he find a way onto Steelers roster by next year? Play with his brother?
They're on the Steelers, right? Yeah.
JJ's
Yeah.
on the Texans. Could he find a way onto
Oh,
the
imagine-
Steelers roster by next year?
Imagine that pass rush.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that'd be
The Watt
so
brothers.
scary.
The Watt brothers?
Put them on the same side.
Oh,
Put them both on the right side.
oh no.
That'd be scary. Evan Garrett goes, Giants are beating the football team. Sorry, Morelli. And Steven Daniels goes, when he did, he was great. Eagles will take him. I think Steve from somebody else saying Eagles would take Watt.
Oh,
What are they going to line him next to Cox?
that would be
That guy doesn't do anything either.
Well, he gets double teamed most of the time, so that
Yeah, but JJ Watt gets double teamed and he somehow finds his way to the quarterback.
that's true. But it does help Vinny Curry when Fletcher Cox gets double teamed, or Brandon Graham. You've seen both of them kind of step up this year.
Steve from Summerdale, how's Mailata doing? How's your boy Mailata doing?
He got put on the right side, and then because he wasn't playing the right side, let a sack up to Carson in that
Boom.
Cowboys game. He was playing DeMarcus Lawrence, so
Okay. So, Jim, I want to go to this final point. We're kind of just rolling through NFL topics right now. There wasn't much that happened this week. And we're going into a bye. It's kind of unfortunate. You can't
Yeah.
even, pregame an Eagles win, and you're like, they beat a really bad Cowboys team. But I want to talk about the Packers. I'm angry about the Eagles. But if I'm a Packers fan, Rory, my old co-host, Rory was a Packers fan. If I was him, and I saw what the Packers did this offseason, they made 0 trades. This team says they want to try to improve, and they do nothing. And they never spend the money. They never have. The Packers organization never spends the money. They never have done it. It's never been their thing. Are they just wasting? Are they trying to waste Aaron Rodgers' career? Is that all they care about? Or is it just money in the pocket is all that matters? Because last time I checked, when you're Green Bay, when you have the trophy is named after a former coach you used to have. Then you go out and you get that trophy to stay in your building. You don't let it just walk out all the time. And Lombardi sits in New England right now. That's all he's been sitting in for the last 15 years. And Green Bay's done nothing to reverse that, even when they have had arguably a quarterback just as good as Brady.
Hey, Tony, did you by happen to get a drop of car tires screeching on some asphalt?
No, I don't.
Because I need you to pump the brakes, Tony.
No.
Pump them. The Packers are 5-2. They're about to be 6-2 after they beat the 49ers tonight. They've had running backs that have just gone missing. They've just fallen down with some sort of disease or debilitating something, and they're about to be 6-2. And last time I checked, they're at the top of their division, right?
Oh, yeah, because the Bears stink. Surprise.
The Bears.
Remember when you were telling me the Bears were good?
The Bears are still good. They're 5-3.
They can't score!
But your record tells you.
What
who
are you talking
are.
about? The Bears can't score, Jim. You told me for weeks they were so great. Nick Foles looks like an idiot out there, and I'm so glad the Eagles got rid of him because he's just as bad as Carson Wentz.
You got to give him time, Tony. We're only halfway through the season. You don't know who the playoff contenders are until you start getting into the last 6 weeks and teams get on a roll. that Bears could end up getting on a roll. But we're not talking about the Bears. We're talking about the Packers, all right?
The Vikings are going to win that division.
No, the Vikings are 2-5. That's not happening. The Lions are more likely to win the division, and Eviction Knight would love that.
Why?
He likes Matt Stafford in the Lions.
Oh, my.
But here's one thing you didn't know.
Eviction Night needs a new hobby.
Here's one thing you didn't know, Tony.
What?
Your co-hosts were both partial to the Packers.
Why?
I've always been a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. And
that's why Jim came into the Jim actually came into the studio today with a mustache on.
oh yes, and not because of November or anything like that, but because I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers guy. But,
Unfortunately, Steven Daniels is crying because of my comments.
I'm just saying they're going to beat the 49ers tonight because Jimmy Garoppolo has fallen apart. They're going to beat the Jags in the next week. Then Packers probably lose to the Colts because their defense is good. Then you got Packers-Bears, and then you got the Packers versus the Eagles. I mean, there's no way the Eagles win that game against the Packers. The Packers are going to roll through the North, and they're going to have a great playoff run.
The Packers are like a Jaguar convertible. When it's sunny and 75, oh, it's nice. Passes are landing correctly. The offense looks good. Aaron Rodgers is smiling on the sidelines. A little bit of some snowflakes, kind of symbolizes Aaron Rodgers a little bit. A little bit of snow, a little bit of rain, a little bit of hardship. And they're slipping all over the road. All of a sudden, the hardtop's coming back. This is what Colin Cowherd said. Hardtop's got to come back on. You got to go park the car in the garage and then go drive your Toyota to work. Because those are the teams that win. And sure, yeah, the Packers are going to win the division. Great, another year winning the division. Congrats.
They're going to have a home game.
Congrats. It's like winning
Lambeau.
the NFC East. Oh, yeah, congrats.
Have a home game in Lambeau in January.
Yeah, where Aaron Rodgers doesn't like the cold. He's got to put that white sleeve undershirt on that he always wears. And you know who's going to come to town? Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's going to show up. And he's going to throw the ball all over Aaron Rodgers. Because I know the Packers might get the bye. Yeah, sure, they might get the bye. Well, Russell Wilson shows up to town and shows how to really sling the ball, how to really run from the pocket, how to really do something with nothing. You're going to be eating your words. I can't wait. I can't wait for you to eat your words.
I don't see it. Not in that cold. I just think that the Packers are more than just Aaron Rodgers. And once they get their running backs back, oh, man, I love that team. I think that team looks really good.
Maddie. Eviction Night goes, Matty Staff is a good quarterback. Can you kick him from the chat, please?
Oh, I can't do that. I don't have that capability. YouTube doesn't pay me enough.
I will be kicking you. No, I won't kick him from this thing. Eviction Night, you say one more thing in the chat, you're gone.
All right, Tony, let's move on to your power rankings. I'm excited to go through this.
Okay, cool. That's enough dumping on your brother. This is my power rankings for the week.
Oh, wait, hold on. Steven Daniels in the chat. Remember what Jimmy did with the Dodgers?
Yeah, that's baseball.
Oh, okay.
Jim Jam doesn't know football. Okay, let's go to the NFL power rankings. Number 1 this week, I have the Steelers. You beat the Ravens. You beat the division. You beat the division opponent. You're the only undefeated team left in the NFL. You get number 1. That's how it goes. Number 2, the Chiefs. Yeah, you beat congrats. You beat the Jets. Congrats. Number 3, Seahawks. An impressive win. I like Seattle. They're going to stay where they are. They're going to beat the 49ers when they have to beat the 49ers. They're going to beat the Cardinals again. They're going to beat. They're not going to beat the Cardinals again. They've already lost the Cardinals. But when they face the Cardinals again, they're going to beat the Cardinals. And the Rams, they're nothing. Nothing. Number 4, Tampa. You looked really good, Brady. You looked really good. And so you're at number 4 for me. And number 5, setting up for a 4-5 battle this week, the Saints. The Saints beat your precious Bears, Jim. And Drew Brees looks really good. But I think they're going to lose to the number 4 Tampa. And you know who's going to slide on up to number 5? The Colts. And that's my prediction. Next week with the way the games are looking, expect the same ranking that I just said. Steelers, Chiefs, Seahawks, Tampa, with the Colts at 5 instead. I think the cream is rising to the top. The oil is rising to the top of the water. We know what the best teams in the NFL look like, and I've got them on my list.
Saints have no business being up there, Tony. That's my only qualm.
Well, they're going to fall down.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I really do think the Cardinals or the Colts, they deserve a shot over the Saints. So I think the Cardinals deserve a shot over the Seahawks. Honestly, they beat them fair and square. It was a hard game, and if they're that equal, then I think the Cardinals should be, at least equal or better than the Seahawks as far as your ranking goes. But that's my only thing. I do like this one. I like how your power rankings have changed. I'm upset that the Bills aren't playing well anymore, and they deserve to be up there at one point, but not anymore. They really have fallen off.
Yeah, and they beat the Patriots. They looked good, but it wasn't good enough.
Now, like this year, a win against the Patriots, what does that really mean? It doesn't mean what it used to be.
They're rebuilding. They're 100% rebuilding. There's no question about what the Patriots are doing this year. Let's move on from that. Let's talk about Daryl Morey. He had some things to say about the 76ers, about Ben Simmons, about Joel Embiid, about all those great things about the 76ers. And for those who are unaware, Daryl Morey is the pretty much head of basketball ops for the Sixers. He's got a great eye for talent, always has. And Morey says something really interesting in this interview on 97.3 ESPN South Jersey Radio. He says that he thinks they have the major pieces. It's the minor pieces that they got to worry about. Here's Daryl Morey talking about that on ESPN Radio.
How do we upgrade? Because actually, I think we're way better than was shown last year. Now, a lot of people got down on the roster last year, but Ben was out in the playoffs. I mean, Ben is such a critical piece to this team that having him out is obviously going to make it really hard to get out of the first round of the playoffs. So I thought that was pretty unfair. But, we've got two superstars in their prime. I think a big challenge is how do we improve them? That's going to be Doc's challenge. And then, the fit of the players around them, the other players around Ben and Joel, how do we do that, in a way that, unfortunately other teams aren't out there trying to figure out how to help us out. So I would say that's probably the biggest challenge.
What do you mean they're not trying to help us out?
What do you mean two superstars in their prime? I don't see that.
I see a half a superstar. And this is what worries me about Daryl Morey. They're talking already about the James Harden trades.
I know. There's so
and
much
I heard
talk.
someone say it would be better. This is so backwards. It would be better for Russell Westbrook, not Russell Wilson. It'd be better for Russell Westbrook to be partnered with Joel Embiid. Oh yeah, let me put Joel Embiid with another guy who can't score.
Ugh, I hate that.
And then he goes, James Harden and Ben Simmons would be great together. What? No, you've got it completely backwards. First of all, Ben Simmons just doesn't melt with anyone of the major players, Westbrook, Embiid, Harden. He doesn't melt with any of them particularly well. Joel Embiid melts with the other two really well because those guys have some ability to score from outside of 10 feet. Even Russell Westbrook can score 9 feet away from the basket. Ben Simmons needs to be with J.J. Redick and J.J. Redick's clone and another clone of J.J. Redick and a fourth clone of J.J. Redick.
And maybe Buddy Hield.
That's who Ben Simmons needs to be next to. Who thinks that, Jim? Who gets away with that? It's just more of the media.
What does it look like with James Harden? Who takes the ball up? How is Ben going to dish it to James Harden for just a spot up three? I don't see anything working.
And Ben Simmons passes it to Russell Westbrook, who also passes it back to Ben Simmons, who clonks it off a three. But don't worry, Russell Westbrook gets the rebound and clonks it off another three.
What is the report on that trade, by the way? Does it look like...
I don't think it's going to happen.
They're not going to try and move Ben or Joel. The way that Morey's been talking about them two is that he wants them there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how on earth that's going to happen.
I don't know either. I think it's just a lot of hype. It's the hype machine.
Yeah.
People on Twitter get on People just want to get on the ESPN trade machine and work their magic because they all think they're Daryl Morey. But that's not the case. You can't just do that. Jim, we're closing out today's episode. Really like everyone for joining us today. It's a slow day in sports. I know it's not easy to be a sports fan when it all stops again. All of a sudden, we're in the cycle of stop-start sports. But if you missed the episode earlier today, we had Tyler Cronin from the 3 Bid League podcast. It was really, really nice to have him on the show. We really do appreciate it. We got a really good conversation. It was like the most exciting part of the show. And if you missed it, don't worry. Go on Apple Podcast. Go check it out. Tony's Takes. You'll see the great logo that you see here on YouTube. Make sure to go and listen. And Jim, I almost forgot. We have a 5-star review.
Ooh.
And I always read 5-star reviews out loud on the show. That's the promise of Tony's Takes. As I said, if you can't listen to us on YouTube, also please make sure to subscribe to us while you're here. If you can't listen to us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on Apple Podcasts. And we have a review. This is from Steve from Summerdale. The caption is Tony and Jimmy. Tony's Takes is a refreshing look at local sports from college and pro. These guys take on the things a true fan would want to hear and discuss. Steve from Summerdale, thanks for the review. You spelled here wrong. Don't mean to get on your case, but I'm just trying to help you out.
Tony, criticizing the fans.
In all seriousness, we appreciate the review. Steve from Summerdale is our number one fan.
Number one fan.
Number one fan. I gotta say, number one super fan.
So loyal.
So loyal.
Listens to every show.
Every show. He's in the chat right now. Unlike Eviction Night.
Eviction Night is not that often.
But Steve from Summerdale, most loyal listener. So Steve, thanks. Thank you for listening. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, he goes, whatever, punk. It's all in good fun. I hope he thinks it's in good fun. Otherwise, he's going to... Jim, don't tell him where I live.
Oh, I would never disclose that.
Jim, let's close out with Phillies talk.
What do you want to know, Tony?
I saw that Bauer was available. He wants to be signed.
I don't want it. I don't want him.
And I asked, do we need the... what's it called? A reliever.
Yeah, we do need. We have half a bullpen. We can't. I don't see the reason in going after starters right now. Not when you need. You need the meat. You need the meat of your bullpen, and I think that the Eagles would be the Phillies.
The Eagles really need a bullpen.
Yes, they do.
We're on something else today.
Yeah.
This is the weirdest episode of Tony's Takes.
The Phillies really need to focus on one area, and it's not the starters.
Yeah, it's the quarterback position.
It's definitely the quarterback position.
In all reality, though, did you see that article I pushed in the thing about the rankings of the top free agents? You know who's number 2?
Trevor Bauer?
No, JT.
Oh, JT, of course.
A lot of money.
He's the number 1 position player, that's for sure. Nope, George Springer is. My bad.
But does JT get the money? We've been talking about it. We'll never know. We can talk to her blue in the face. We'll never know.
$200 million for 8 years is just absurd. The fact that he would request that from any team, there's no way. There's no way he's going to get that money. He got a qualifying offer from the Phillies for $18.9 million, and
if you're really going to bargain over $1 million like that,
I mean that's just for 1 year. I think he wants to lock up. Like Bryce Harper did.
You can say that's $8 million over 8 years.
He's turning 30.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want a 38-year-old catcher that are paying
I would
for.
pay him more. Steven T just goes, I know where you live. Oh, no. Here's the thing with JT. Why not just pay him a lot of money now, but for shorter time period? Like, give him a really fat contract for 5 years. And just be like, look, JT, we're going to pay you for the 8-year contract. We'd rather give you this money up front than have you sit around for 8 years.
The way I look at catchers in baseball is sort of how people look at running backs in football. Right? So running backs, they get one contract basically, and then you see them fall off because they can't last more than 5 years.
Right.
Once JT hits that age of like 30 or so, his knees are not going to be the same.
He's
as
not
when
going to be able
25.
to jump out of the catching position.
No. And I don't see a reason for paying him more than like $60 million for 3 years. If you want to give a fat contract, that's it. 3 years. I don't see what's the point in paying him for longer than 33. I don't see his peak lasting longer than that. He's not LeBron James.
So we're just going to let him walk.
That's what I end up
Unless the market says no.
Unless the market says no. And you might get that with coronavirus going on and how the league's been impacted.
And who knows if they're going to even have a season. There's a lot of questions around, will the players even get together to do a season?
Yeah.
And this isn't every sport, folks. This isn't just baseball. The NBA is still having issues, and we mentioned this earlier in the show. The NBA is still having issues with getting the contracts together. The NFL is going to have issues in a year from now. If anything, the NFL is the one that's going to have the best shot because they have the most control over the players' union. But baseball, good luck. We're going to be watching hockey and football for the next year. We're not going to be watching basketball and baseball. The players' unions are too strong. That's going to be a problem.
Yep. You're talking lockouts.
There's going to be major lockouts because these players think they can get the money and then also get the safety around it. No, that's not the world we live in today, unfortunately. This isn't 5 years ago where everything was growing.
It's a shame where we get to that point where, players are just requesting so much and they don't recognize the times that we're in and how difficult this can be. It looks like every corner that we go around, there's litigation behind it. It's nuts, and you have to be reasonable. This is a game. You're being paid big bucks as an adult
to
play
field.
a kid's game. Yeah.
I wish we could get paid to run cross country, Jim.
Nobody really gets that. Even the people that do get that, they don't really get paid. So
Clemson just canceled their cross country program. You see that?
No.
Yeah, we have a friend at Clemson.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I think Stephen Daniels goes, they can't get the money if the money is not coming in. Yeah, you're right. That's what we're saying. I mean, that's the issue. There's no one watched them on TV this year. And TV was supposed to be the bread and butter of the sports industry.
Yeah, there might be other reasons for that as well. But
NBA is apparently going to have seats available in the boxes. That's a rumor going around. But I'm not going to go to a game.
Well, I don't see... If you're allowed to eat inside and you're allowed to go to sports stadiums that are outside,
right.
You're allowed to eat inside, eventually they're going to have to go towards this, allowing people on indoor concerts and games and everything.
I want to say this, Jim. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no
has your Harris Blitzer contact been calling you lately?
They called me last week or so.
Okay, so I get a phone number. I get a phone call once a week. Everyone, come close. Come close. Come close. I want to tell you a little secret about Tony's Takes. Every week, I get a call from a mysterious number, and I Google the number. And every time I Google that number, up on LinkedIn pops Harris Blitzer, sales representative for the 76ers. If you're cold calling, here's a little secret. If you're cold calling, leave a message. Don't just call me and not leave a message. It is creepy. And one day I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to tell him, no, I don't want to buy anything from your program, from your team. But until he leaves a message, he will never, ever, ever have me pick up the phone. So, Jim, if you talk to your Harris Blitzer sports person, tell him that someone is creepily calling your friend, acquaintance, co-host, and not leaving a message.
That whole company really just needs to get their act
They might
together.
be our sponsor one day.
Oh.
Like FanDuel.
Well, hopefully they can get their act together by that day.
Get your act together and pay us money to talk about you. Harris Blitzer Sports. Okay, Jim, I think that wraps us up today.
It was a fun show.
That was a fun
Enjoyed
show.
having Tyler on.
It was that was a great part of the episode. And then it went downhill slowly from there. But that's how it goes on Tony's Takes. Thanks for tuning into Tony's Takes. I know people probably have bigger things. Is there something bigger going on?
We got football at 8:20.
Is that what's big tonight?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the biggest thing.
That's what I thought. Thanks for listening to Tony's Takes here on YouTube. If you're here for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. That way you get notified every time we go live for the best show in sports talk radio, Tony's Takes. Make sure to leave us 5-star reviews. We read them all out loud on the episode, as we did today. And it was really great for Steven Sommerdale to leave us a really nice 5-star review. And make sure to follow us on Twitter at Tonys_takes. It's moving at the ticker at the bottom of your screen at Tonys_takes. That way you can follow us every time we have something interesting to tweet at. And finally, don't forget to
mailbag.
Yes, that's right. Don't forget to submit your takes
the
to
mailbag.
the mailbag. That way you get your takes on the show. We read all mailbag takes live on Tony's Takes. Every mailbag gets on Tony's Takes. And finally, listen to us on Apple Podcasts. If you missed today's episode on YouTube, go to Apple Podcasts. That way you can hear the entire show. Jim, thanks for being on Tony's Takes. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony. Enjoyed it.
It was an excellent episode. Thanks for listening to Tony's Takes. We look forward to seeing everyone next week when there's actually sports to talk about right here on YouTube, 7 o'clock on Thursday. You've been listening to Tony's Takes.
The premier sports talk radio, it's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.